Krishna 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 Hey, Krishna 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 Krishna, Krishna 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 Hey, Krishna 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna Rakshamam, Krishna 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna Pahimam, Rama Raghava Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam, Krishna Keshava Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam.
Did we finish chapter 21, Sachin?
Yeah, what we did was we had 2 paragraphs left from that, and we went through the whole 2 paragraphs, and we didn't discuss it much. I just summarized them.
Oh, okay.
But if you're feeling the urge to discuss those, I don't mind. We can go back a little bit.
I'm fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. As I mentioned, I'm using a slightly different. I'm using a different laptop this week. I'm trying to keep it all working. The power seemed to stop charging and the battery's low. Okay, it's charging again. Maybe the wire's wobbly. Okay.
Chapter 22.
Let's go. Yeah.
Still in the garments of the unmarried Gopi girls. According to Vedic civilization, unmarried girls from 10 to 14 years of age are supposed to worship either Lord Shiva or Goddess Durga in order to get a nice husband. But the unmarried girls of Vrindavan were already attracted by the beauty of Krishna. They were, however, engaged in the worship of Goddess Durga in the beginning of the Hemanta season, just prior to the winter season. The first month of Hemanta is Argyana, October, November. At that time, all the unmarried gopis of the Vrindavan began to worship Goddess Durga with a vow. They first ate haviskyana, a kind of food prepared by boiling together mung dal and rice without any spice or turmeric. According to Vedic injunction, this kind of food is recommended to purify the body before one enacts a ritualistic ceremony. All the unmarried gopis in Vrindavan used to daily worship goddess Katyayani early in the morning after taking a bath in the river Yamuna. Katyayani is another name of goddess Durga. The goddess is worshipped by preparing a doll made of sand from the bank of Yamuna. It is recommended in the Vedic scriptures that a deity may be made from a different kind of material elements. It can be painted, made of metal, made of jewels, made of wood, earth, or stone, or can be conceived within the heart of the worshipper. The Mayavadi philosopher takes all these forms of deity to be imaginary, but actually they are accepted in the Vedic scriptures to be identical with either the Supreme Lord or a respective demigod.
Thank you, Prabhu, for starting us off. All right, so this is beginning of the stealing the garments of the unmarried Gopi girls. So this is the scene. It's being set here. What season is this scene being set in? Start from the discussion from here. So previous chapters, as you may remember, were through the autumn season, yeah? Now what season is this one in?
The Hemanta season.
Yeah. So it's in the month of October and November. Okay. Does anyone else know what other festivals or what other special months are in this season? October, what celebration do we normally have in October?
Normally
Kartik month.
Yes, Kartik month, yeah. So Kartik, this is just actually after Kartik month, yeah? So this is the season, but the month of Kartik is the beginning of that season, yeah? and then it goes on to so it says the first month of Hemanta is so actually no, sorry, I'm mistaken. The Kartik is the end of the previous season, the autumn, and this is the beginning of the winter season. Yeah. So that this month is called Agrahayana. Yeah. So I don't know if you've seen in the Vaishnav calendar that the last 5 days of Kartik, what are they called? Does anyone know?
Bhishma Panchaka.
Yeah, Bhishma Panchak is the last 5 days of the Kartik month. Yeah, and there's a special fast in that month, in those 5 days especially. Yeah, and so that's also mentioned here. So there's a fast eating this kind of khichdi, and it's called Havishan. Yeah. So this is actually what the gopis did. They actually did this fast. Yeah. And why were they doing this fast?
To get a good husband.
Yeah, they were doing this fast because it's advised that doing this you get a good husband. Yeah. And who were they trying to please in the fasting? Because generally there's a deity you have for every type of worship. Yeah.
Goddess Durga.
Yeah, Goddess Durga, that's right. So that information is given here. So Goddess Durga presides over that season. Just like today, does anyone know what the start of today, what today's marks?
Vasant Panchami.
Vasant Panchami, yeah. And there's also a deity presiding over this day as well. The goddess presiding over this day as well. Does anyone know?
Saraswati.
Saraswati. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So Goddess Saraswati is worshipped especially today at the start of this season. So this is like our Vedic calendar. There's so many festivals. Yeah. So today is the first day of spring. And it's, well, it doesn't seem like spring outside here at all. But in India, it's much more like spring. So that's called Vasant Panchami, the first day of spring. And Saraswati is celebrated in this time. And then, and this what is described here is the beginning of the winter season and Katyayani's worship of Goddess Durga. Now, it's said that as devotees, as sadhakas, practicing devotees, that we should be following in the footsteps of the gopis, right? Have you heard this before? Been mentioned in different places in Prabhupada's books. Yeah. That the perfect worshippers of Krishna are the gopis. We read that in the last chapter. If I just go back to that statement in the last paragraph of the last chapter, it says, therefore Lord Chaitanya declared that no one can worship the Supreme Lord by any method which is better than the method of the gopis. Yeah? So the gopis are the best worshippers of Krishna, and it's recommended the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu follow in the worship of the gopis. So that's one statement. And then here is another statement which we're reading today, that the gopis, they worship Goddess Durga. So then one might put the two together and think, okay, that means we have to worship Goddess Durga. But is that actually the case? What do we think about that?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Just a guess, really. I'll have a go at this, but no, that wouldn't be the case because gopis are pure, have a pure relationship with Krishna, and the way to. So no, it's the gopis because gopis have this relationship with Krishna and they're the highest. That's why we would worship the gopis.
Yeah, that's right. So they have a specific relationship with Krishna. And so we shouldn't necessarily worship Goddess Durga. That's correct, yeah. At least that's what our acharyas, our line of acharyas, our teachers, our gurus, they recommend. We should follow the gopis, but we don't have to worship Goddess Durga because they did. At least not in the way that we might usually think that we worship Goddess Durga for a good husband or good wife. Yeah. So I'll explain a little bit about why they're worshipping Goddess Durga, or what's the difference between, say, the gopis worshipping Goddess Durga and a common worshipper of the Devas. So you see here with the gopis, they actually don't have a material desire. They're approaching the Goddess Durga, but they're not approaching her for a material reason as such. So one may say that they're approaching her to be married to a nice husband, but they have a desire to be married to Krishna. So they don't have a material desire in that sense, because their desire is to have Krishna as their husband. They have a one-point desire for Krishna. And any relationship with Krishna, is it material relationship? No. See, so this is the significant thing, that the gopis, they have a desire to marry Krishna. They desire to have a relationship with Krishna. So they have a spiritual desire. And so with their spiritual desire, they're approaching Katyayani Devi and praying that their spiritual desire is fulfilled. So if you start with a spiritual desire, then you get a spiritual outcome, a spiritual result. If you start with a material desire, then you get a material result. Yeah. Or if your desire is mixed, it's like partly material, partly spiritual, a little bit of both, then the outcome will be mixed. Yeah. So this is the nature of demigod worship. So it's not recommended, because generally people will approach the demigods for material desire. Because without understanding Krishna consciousness in the correct way, then one could easily be mistaken. So does that make sense in terms of why they're approaching Goddess Katyayani or Durga? Yeah. So they have a spiritual desire to have Krishna as their husband. Yeah. And so they're following the normal activities that they would, according to the Vedic culture. According to that time, that was the normal practice. Yeah. Although the setting is like a normal setting, because their desire is spiritual and the environment is spiritual and their relationship with Krishna is spiritual, it is actually all transcendental. There's no material desire or material result that comes from it. Yeah? But they still have they still go through all of the motions, they still go through all of the activities, they still perform the pastime, the lila. Yeah. So does anyone have any comments or questions on this paragraph? Okay, we can continue reading on. Prabhu, would you like to read on?
The unmarried gopis used to prepare the deity of Goddess Durga and worship it with chandana pulp, garlands, incense, lamps, and all kinds of presentations, fruits, grain, and twigs of plants. After worshipping, it is the custom to pray for some benediction. The unmarried girls used to pray with great devotion to Goddess Katyayani, addressing her as follows: O supreme external energy of the personality of Godhead, O supreme mystic power, O supreme control of this material world, O Goddess, please be kind to us and arrange for our marriage with the son of Nanda Maharaj, Krishna. The Vaishnavas generally do not worship any demigods. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has strictly forbidden all worships of the demigods for anyone who wants to advance in pure devotional service. Yet, the gopis who are beyond compare in their affection for Krishna were seen to worship Durga. The worshippers of demigods sometimes mention that the gopis worship goddess Durga, but we must understand the purpose of the gopis. Generally, people worship goddess Durga for some material benediction. Here, the gopis prayed for the goddess to become wives of Lord Krishna. The purport is that if Krishna is the center of activity, a devotee can adopt any means to achieve that goal. The gopis could adopt any means to satisfy or serve Krishna. This was a super excellent characteristic of the gopis. They worshipped goddess Durga completely for 1 month in order to have Krishna as their husband. Every day they prayed for Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, to become their husband.
Right, so yeah, this point is again made more clear now about the motive of the gopis. Yeah, and there's another aspect of these two paragraphs which is interesting, I thought. And that Prabhupada talks a little bit here about the what is actually deity worship. So that's also interesting. In the previous paragraph, it's mentioned the different material elements we can use to worship a deity. Yeah. So what are those? Did you see those mentioned in the previous paragraph? There was a short list given of the form that you can have the deity made of these different things. On the topic of the
deities can be made from metal or jewel or wood, earth, stone, and any material.
Yeah, metal, jewel, wood, stone, and then it says even within the heart, and even it can be painted. Prabhupada mentions as well. So this is recommended that we can worship a deity made of these elements, yeah, these items. So many people, they don't understand actually what deity worship is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It seems like a very mystic thing to people. Mystic thing, or something which is very, like they may say is a ritual or mystic thing, or people get a great misunderstanding about deity worship, isn't it? So how is it that we can, in simple way, explain deity worship to common people?
Can I try, Gopi?
Not able to hear you so well.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
So
me
much better.
Yeah,
Much
sorry,
better.
I'm not on video today. So I've got a question, and also I'll try answering your question. Is it because the deities, they are their bodies are they are spiritual beings, aren't they? So so they can be in any form, or they can be in any shape or form. So as long as we associate the being of the deity with the form we are worshipping the deity with, that becomes the deity. So it's not the material we are worshipping, but the spiritual deity we are considering to be within that material.
Okay, yeah.
And so my question is, so say if I have a paper of a deity, you know, from say from the ISKCON calendar, I have a picture of the deity and I worship that. So because to me, my Krishna or my Narasimhadev is situated in that paper. So I'm guessing Krishna will accept my prayers, wouldn't it? If in my heart, I think of Krishna to be in that paper.
Yeah, so good question. What does everyone think about that, based on what we've read so far?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, very well.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. So I had a similar question years ago. That because I remember, as far as I remember, when I was a child in Africa, we didn't have deities, so we always used to worship through the picture. And I asked a similar question to one of the gurus, ISKCON gurus, and they said to me that you can worship to a painting, and the deity is made of any material like wood, metal, clay, like that. I was thinking that if Krishna is all pervading everywhere, everywhere, so if he's everywhere, then he can also be in that painting and in the Archa Vigraha.
Mm.
So this is a similar answer I got from one of the gurus when I asked the question.
Yeah. So the deity can be everywhere. So why not? Sorry, the Lord can be everywhere. So why not in the deity also? That's one answer as well. Yeah. Anyone else want to mention anything or question? Wonder if Madhvi Mataji would like to say, our resident Pujari.
Hare Krishna, yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna can be any form, as you said, and the picture of a deity is called to worship at home is an extension of whichever deity you nearest temple to you. So they take the form of that deity and come and accept your service at home. When your home deities, any home deities, is expansion of the deities at the temple, whichever temple you are serving. So at this time as well, at COVID time, you can worship them at any time they come. So that's why it's even mentioned here that it can be in your heart, within your heart, which is you do sometimes you're traveling or somewhere else, you don't have deity, you do a Mansik Puja, it's called. So having deities in your heart, establishing them in your heart, and then you do a whole worship. As you say, Madhvendra Puri was doing that, and he tried to taste the kheer and he burned his finger. So, yeah, so that is your Mansik Puja. So in any form, at any time, even if you can't do it sometimes when you're ill or anything, you just meditate on them. So they don't need much. Deities only needs your love. That's what is needed. Everything, whenever it's possible, you do the best you can do it. That's what they say.
Thanks, Mataji, for adding that.
And that's how I'm serving as well at the moment. I miss temple service, but I'm worshiping. I find when I'm worshiping my deities at home, I find that they're accepting my service, and I find that they are there. So
this is the real ingredient, isn't it?
Yeah, keep
love, Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
So we can have these different ingredients, whether we use a painting or metal or earth or whatever.
And it's actually,
but if the heart isn't there, if the love isn't there, then it's the same as like idol worship. That's the difference. But if the love is there, then the Lord can accept whatever offering you have.
And it is recommended that if you are not ready to serve in a deity form, it's best to serve in the picture form, so you don't make any offenses.
Yeah, I was also thinking of adding that point as well, Mataji.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting aspect of deity worship, that if you worship the picture of the deity, or if you worship a picture of the Lord, then the Lord isn't offended if we don't worship according to all the regulations or the rules. So that's very merciful that Krishna has the picture form as well, because we can do all the right things and Krishna accepts, and we may do all the wrong things and Krishna doesn't accept the mistakes.
And
So
forgives
actually,
you.
that's really merciful. Yeah. So this is why they have what sometimes is called installed. They have installed deities. So that standard has to be very good.
Just one question or a
Yes,
comment. Most Hindu households, whether they follow the ISKCON path or not, will most people have a Bal Gopal. So obviously they worship that, and they all believe that Krishna resides in the Bal Gopal. So that, and then there's a comment on here which says, Narottam Das Thakur strictly forbidden all worship of demigods. So, I mean, Bal Gopal wouldn't be classified as a demigod, would it? Would be a form of Krishna.
Bal Gopal is Krishna, yes, right? Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the childhood form of Krishna.
Yeah.
Sometimes Bal Gopal or even our Bal Gopal, his name is Ladu Gopal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Krishna eating Ladu. Yeah. And you see, like his hand will be like this, and he's got the Ladu in his hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's Krishna, yeah.
Hare Krishna. Again, as you said, most Hindus have that Bal Gopal. The deities are in two forms, Chal and Achal. So Chal means you can carry anywhere, you can do service, is a simple service is accepted. When it's Achal, means installed, then you have to have a high standard. Or when it's not installed, you kept it as a Chal, then you do your own standard, what is possible for you to maintain, and you carry on that way.
So when you say install, that's where Pran Pratishtha.
Yeah, Pran Pratishtha.
Yes,
then you can't move them, and you have to have high standard of service.
I mean, most Hindu families probably would not have Pran Pratishtha.
No,
so
no, it should be
standard loving sort of worship, which may be different from person to person.
Yeah, that's up to you what service, and you probably serve deity. I'm able to manage this one, and you try to. That's what it is.
So the underlying point, as Madhvi Mataji said, is that actually the love has to be there to serve. If we worship with the heart and offer with love, then the deity is present, whether it's an installed deity or whether it's just a form of the deity which we worship. In both cases, the worship is accepted by the Lord. It's not that only the installed deity accepts the worship or not. As we can see here, how the gopis made the deity was in sand. So you can imagine they're on the bank of the Yamuna, and they're forming the deity with the sand, like this, pulling the sand and forming the deity. And they'll perform all their worship, as I said here, all the different items they offered. Yeah. And then end of the worship, they remove the deity. And the next day again, they form the deity again. So still in that way is accepted. It's not an installed deity. They're not worshipping an installed deity, the gopis. Yeah. So both kind of worship is accepted by Krishna. So another very important point Prabhupada makes in this purport. Panchali, did that answer your question? I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, it's sorry, is my hand still raised? Sorry, apologies. That's a
legacy
hand. Yeah, it's absolutely fine. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, so
thank
then
you to both of you and Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everyone for contributing. All right, so there's one more point here where Prabhupada he's more emphatically stating now the purport in terms of what we read so far, the meaning behind it is that if Krishna is the center of activity, a devotee can adopt any means to achieve that goal. Yeah, the gopis could adopt any means to satisfy or serve Krishna. That was the super excellent characteristic of the gopis. Yeah. So this is a very important point Prabhupada is making here. Yeah. So he's brought that out by saying that the purport of all of this, the purpose in knowing this, is such that that in the Vedas it said Yena Tena Prakarena Mana Krishna Niveshaya. Yeah. Rupa Goswami, our Acharya, he says that somehow or other become attached to serving Krishna, somehow or other. Yeah. So Yena Tena Prakarena, anyhow, just somehow or other. So their way of worshipping Krishna was that they wanted to marry Krishna, and they made this deity of Durga, and they worshipped so that they could become more and more attached to Krishna, to have him as their husband. So that is actually the principle in the past time. This is what it means to follow in the footsteps of the gopis. They actually somehow or other try to worship Krishna.
One more point or question, Guruji.
Yes,
lots of our temples or temples at our home, before some of us came into ISKCON, obviously we prayed to all the deities like Saraswati, Lakshmi, Hanuman, etc. Now, after coming into ISKCON, you obviously realize that they are energies of Krishna, so they're not God. But because they are there in the temple, obviously you can't put them aside and not pray. So how do you deal with that sort of situation?
I'll probably ask this question to maybe my parents or to Satyanarayana Prabhu Madhvi Mataji, because my case, my first deities was Radha Krishna. So,
I mean, we've got like in our temple,
I understand
we've got Radha Krishna at the
question,
main.
yeah.
But then we also got Hanuman, we got
Yes.
Saraswati, Lakshmi ji, Gampati, etc. So, like any puja we do, we always start with the Gampati prayer.
Yeah.
But so how does that sit with ISKCON philosophy?
Yeah. So maybe Satyanarayana Prabhu Madhvi Mataji, because they're pujaris, though, and they've been through this, so they'll have better understanding.
Hari Bol, all the demigods are given some service, and that's by Krishna. So, say for example, any service you do, any particular service you do, and start with Ganesh, so that worship classified as a respect to Ganesh and asking for blessing to serve Krishna. So, and similarly, it applies to other demigods as well.
So I'll tell you, because I've still got them, because I had the same. I had a Ganpati, Lakshmiji, Hanumanji, and 2 siblings, which were given to me. One I got it from so I had that, and I was worshipping them. When I joined the ISKCON and I was confused, and then Sri Maharaj himself, he came to my place, and then I told him, at that time I put it on the side, and Sri Maharaj said that you can keep it on the side. So I have got a space, not in the altar, beside the altar there, so I respect them. And he told, because bathing is deities and that, and he said, because you got a Gopal, that is a Shila Gopal in research. So when you do the bathing, you do the bathe your Gopal, and the Charnamrat from there, then you bathe the link with that. Because if you see in Vrindavan, always after Abhishek in Vrindavan temple, the Charnamrat goes there, and it's Gopeshwar Made, and offer it there. So you give the respect to them. They're there, you can't get rid of them. So it's just make their space a respectful space by the side.
So the principle is we don't offer them boga, we offer them prasad.
Prasad. After we have done the offering, we can just like we offer to Tulsi
In any
Maharani as
form.
well. So I offer Tulsi Maharani after my deities to Tulsi Maharani, and then I go and offer them respectfully. Then Prabhupada, because Prabhupada is offering to deities, and Guru is offering to the deities. So we respect them, and we ask their praise that they gives us strength in that, and gives us intelligence that we worship Krishna and remember Krishna and guide us to for this.
For example, when I offer a flower to Sivling, I offer to Krishna, baby Krishna first, because we got a baby Krishna on the altar, and then I offer to Shiva, not directly.
So just make a side on the by the altar, so or anywhere you want to.
So Prabhuji, sorry. So when you bathe Shivlinga, because I've got a small Shivlinga, so at that time, do you need to think of Krishna first, or can you bathe the Shivlinga directly?
Yeah, you are actually just doing the bathing to Krishna first. It's a Krishna's what's called Chanamrita, you bathe them. So you can meditate on Krishna if you are not haven't got the deities, only got the sibling to bathe, and then that water you can use it on sibling.
Well, when we bathing Sivling, in our consciousness, we are bathing the servant of the Lord.
It's a highest Vaishnava. So
Yeah.
so
And practically that will please Lord Shiva also, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lord Shiva will be very pleased. More pleased actually.
That's right.
Because actually if you were to get Ganga Jal and bathe with the actual Ganga Jal, where does that Ganga Jal come from? It comes from the feet of Vishnu, it comes from Vamandev. So that is actually what that same water is what lands on Lord Shiva's head. So actually reality is that he's getting the prasadam of Krishna already. So if we also offer him the same bathing water which has already been offered to Krishna, the same prasad, he'll be very pleased.
So I do that way. I'll just follow Sima Maharaj's instruction.
So that way you are becoming servant of the servant of the.
If you see in Hungary as well, Shiva Maharaj got sibling, Shiv temple there, small one. If anybody's gone there, they know that.
Yeah, it's just right. It's outside of the main temple, so you actually see that one first. That one comes first, and then you go into the main temple.
So the purpose is to get the blessing from them.
Even if you see when we go to Yatra, Parikrama in Mayapur or now, we go first to the Shiva temple, have their blessing, and then we start our Parikrama from there.
That's
and
right.
We take our vows that we will finish the Parikrama at Shiva temple.
Okay, so does that answer the questions for you, Jay Prakash Prabhu and Panchali Mataji?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, a bit clearer. At least didn't feel any thoughts in your mind. Thank you.
Jai Prakash Prabhu, I've also got other demigods in my, along with Krishna's deity, I've also got other demigods. So it's clearer now what to do. Thank you, Mataji and Prabhuji.
Can I just add one thing to this relation? I read about a really nice story in one of the books. I can't remember which book it was, and there was, or I heard about this, and there was a really devoted devotee of Shiva, who was really like a very good devotee of Shiva, and then he didn't want anything materially. So when Shiva asked, Shankar Bhagwan asked him, what can I give you benediction? and he said, I don't want any benediction, you give me whatever you want. So because he was so dear to the devotee was so dear to Shiva, Shivaji took him to some underground thing, and he said, I'll take you somewhere, and he took him to a Vishnu deity, and he said, my biggest pleasure will be that you serve Vishnu. I feel that if you're serving Shiva, which I used to serve Shiva Shivji before I got married, and after I got married for a long time, and in my deep down in my heart, I feel that he brought me to Krishna. So because he's a great Vaishnava, he does help you to if you don't have any material desires, so he will bring you to Krishna, because it's his blessing that we come to Krishna. Krishna. That's all. That's what I wanted to add on.
Yeah, many stories like that. That's a really nice story as well. I haven't heard that one before. Yeah. So we can move on from here to the next paragraph. We've got just 2 readers today. Does anyone else want to read? Jay Prakash Prabhu, maybe you could read the next paragraph also.
Okay. Early in the morning, the gopis used to go to the bank of Yamuna to take bath. They would assemble together and holding one another's hands, loudly sing of the wonderful pastimes of Krishna. In the old system among Indian girls and women, that when they take a bath in the river, they place their garments on the bank and dip into the water completely naked. The portion of the river where the girls and women bath was strictly prohibited to any male, and this is still the system. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing the minds of unmarried young gopis, blessed them with their desired objective. They had prayed for Krishna to become their husband, and Krishna wanted to fulfill their desires. At the end of the month, Krishna, along with his friends, appeared on the scene. Another name of Krishna is Yogeshwar, or master of all mystic powers. By practicing meditation, the yogi can study the psychic movement of other men, and certainly Krishna could understand the desire of the gopis. Appearing on the scene, Krishna immediately collected all the garments of the gopis, climbed up onto a nearby tree, and with a smiling face began to speak to them.
Yeah. So these 2 paragraphs, is this 2 paragraphs in your book, Prabhu?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
there's no, I just carried on.
Oh, no problem. Okay. So in the first paragraph, it's explained how the gopis would come to the river. So one thing that really stood out for me that I liked was it said here how they're loudly singing the wonderful pastimes of Krishna. So I quite like that. It's quite sweet. That they're actually always thinking of Krishna. They're so Krishna conscious, They're singing. So this is exactly our Sankirtan movement, you see. It's a Golokera Prema Dana, Harinam Sankirtan. So this Harinam Sankirtan movement, the chanting of Harinam, Krishna's names, actually comes from Goloka, Golokera Prema Dana. That it's the wealth, the dhan of Goloka. The wealth of Goloka, the wealth of the spiritual world is what? Is actually the chanting of Krishna's names, Golokera Prema Dana, Harinam Sankirtan. So actually we see that in many of the pastimes that even the gopis, they were doing this Harinam Sankirtan. They were singing loudly together, holding hands and singing and dancing on the way to the river. So I thought this was a wonderful point you made about this. Now another thing I picked up from here. So who's actually fulfilling the desires here? So this is mentioned because we know that they prayed to goddess Katyayani, but who is fulfilling the gopis' desires, as mentioned at least in this first paragraph? So when we pray to demigods, then is the demigod fulfilling our desire? Who is fulfilling the desire? This is explained in this paragraph. In the last sentence.
Krishna, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's, I mean, all the...
Sorry.
Yeah, it is Krishna, isn't it? I mean, we do pray to the demigods, but for it to be fulfilled, because everything is owned by Krishna and everything happens because if Krishna wills it to happen. So even if we ask the demigods for something, the demigods might be very happy and may want to give that to us, but the ultimate yes or no lies with Krishna. So they have to take Krishna's permission to be able to give that to us, isn't it? Or am I wrong?
That's correct. So here it's mentioned, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, knowing the minds of the unmarried gopis, blessed them with their desired objective. Yeah. So who actually blessed them? It was Krishna that blessed them, you see. So they have a direct relationship with Krishna, but they go through all of the pastimes in the right way of approaching Krishna according to the Vedic way, and actually Krishna blesses them. Yeah. So this is the important point to understand in this paragraph, that even though they prayed to Goddess Katyayani, still Krishna was the one who blessed their desires. Because he is the Supreme Lord. So Krishna, is said that Krishna sanctions everything. He sanctions. It's said in the scriptures, not even a blade of grass moves without Krishna's sanction.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, because what happens, material desire is very dangerous. It changes your consciousness, isn't it? And we should not forget that we have joined International Society for Krishna Conscious, not Shiva Conscious or Durga Conscious. So that makes more understanding, you know.
Yeah, so material desires are different from spiritual desire because they're different from our real desire, isn't it? The actual desire of the soul.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Krishna conscious desire means it's actually in line with who we really are, who is the soul really. Whereas material desire is actually to do nothing with the soul, but with the mind and the body. Because we have this ahankar, false ego, then we're trying to satisfy the mind and the body. And so then approaching demigods is to satisfy that aspect of us, the material aspect.
Yeah, Krishna consciousness means serve Lord Krishna with loving devotional service.
That's right. Thank you, Prabhu, for adding this. Okay, so now the pastime progresses in the second paragraph. So Krishna could understand the desire of the gopis, just like Krishna can understand anyone, because he's in the heart of everyone. He's Yogeshwara. Means that he's in the heart of the. He has, by his mystic power, he can understand everyone's desire. So this is also interesting because you see the Devas, there's a difference in Krishna and the Devas. That the Devas, they can't see what's in our heart. They can only see what's in our expression, either in our mind or in our actions. With Krishna, he can even see what's in our heart. He can see what's in the past, what's in the present, what's in the future. And he can see in the heart, he can see the desire itself. Desire means it may not even be something we're thinking about, but it's just there in the heart. So Krishna could see that to that level. Yeah. And so therefore, the pastime continues that Krishna climbed up on a tree and he collected all their clothes and he climbed up on the tree nearby. Okay. So is anyone want to ask a question or comment? Otherwise we can move on in these two paragraphs. Okay, next reader will be Amu Mataji.
My dear girls, he said, please come here one after another and pray for your garments, and then take them away. I'm not joking with you. I'm just telling the truth. I have no desire to play any joke with you, for you are tired from observing the regulative principles for 1 month by worshipping Goddess Katyayani. Please do not come here all at once. Come alone. I want to see each of you in your complete beauty, for you all have thin waists. I have requested you to come alone. Now please comply.
Okay, so Krishna is asking them to come one by one, and he's taken their clothes, so then he will give their garments back. So there's a reason why Krishna is doing this. In one level, people say that Krishna is like an immoral person because he's taking the clothes of the girls. But actually, we can understand if we follow the pastime properly, that Krishna is fulfilling the desires of the gopis because they desire him as the husband. Yeah. So how are they feeling? How is Krishna fulfilling all of the desires at once? Because it's said that only the husband can see the wife in this way. Yeah. Only the husband can see the wife. So that's why Krishna is asking them to come and collect their clothes. So even though Krishna says he's not joking, then in the next sentence it said that he is joking. So this is actually his joking words. He says, I'm not joking. So we should understand that Krishna is also that he is the enjoyer. He's the supreme enjoyer. But he's not enjoying immorally. He's enjoying because he's reciprocating with the love of his devotees. Okay? All right. So would you like to read one more, Ganesha?
Okay, Prabhu. When the girls in the water heard such joking words from Krishna, they began to look at one another and smile. They were very joyous to hear such a request from Krishna because they were already in love with him. Out of shyness, they looked at one another, but they could not come out of the water because they were naked. Due to remaining in the water for a long time, they felt cold and were shivering. Yet, upon hearing the pleasing, joking words of Govinda, their minds were perturbed with great joy. They told Krishna, "Dear son of Nanda Maharaj, please do not joke with us in that way. It is completely unjust to us. You are a very respectable boy because you are the son of Nanda Maharaj. You are very dear to us, but you should not play this joke on us, because now we are all shivering from the cold water. Kindly deliver our garments immediately, otherwise we shall suffer." They then began to appeal to Krishna with great submission. "Dear Shyama Sundara," they said, "we are all your eternal servitors. Whatever you order us to do, we are obliged to perform without hesitation because we consider it our religious duty. But if you insist on putting this proposal to us, which is impossible to perform, then certainly we will have to go to Nanda Maharaj and lodge a complaint against you. If Nanda Maharaj does not take action, then we will tell King Kamsa about your misbehavior."
Okay, so here it's interesting because so Krishna is joking to them that you should come and collect your clothes, yeah. And at the same time, Prabhupada writes, they were very joyous to hear such a request from Krishna because they were already in love with him. So you see, they're having actually fun in this pastime together, Krishna and the gopis. because their desire is to love Krishna, and Krishna's desire is to reciprocate with them. So two things can be said about this. So on one level, actually they're both very young in age. Okay, that Krishna, he's only like, say, 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old in this pastime. He's actually very young. Yeah, this is one thing that can be said. So even from a material perspective, there's no sense of lust. Yeah, there's even a boy of 8 years old who hasn't gone through adolescence age. He doesn't have that that lust. He doesn't have that desire for a female relationship. So this is one point, and similarly, the Gopi girls are also very young. So in one level, it's just fun between these young boys and girls, this type of behavior. So even from if you look at it from material perspective, this is the way the pastime is being enacted. Now, another way of looking at this pastime, as explained by acharyas, is that Krishna already can see in the heart. Any case, Krishna can see in the heart. There's actually nothing we can hide from Krishna. So it's not that the gopis are able to hide anything from Krishna anyway. Yeah. So the point, the purpose of the pastime is to show the surrender of the gopis. Yeah. So they're explaining to Krishna that they won't come because it's not appropriate for them to come out of the water without their clothing. And also it's not appropriate for Krishna to be there because that is the ladies' bathing area, as we read in the previous paragraph. Only the ladies would bathe in a certain place, the gentlemen would bathe in a different place. So, but the point is that Krishna, he already knows that, he already can see everything anyway. He's all seeing. Whether you can see Krishna seeing you or whether you can't. So they're not. So the point is actually what's coming out here is that this will show the level of surrender of the gopis. Yeah, that they will even abandon all the religious principles just because of pleasing Krishna. And Satyanarayana Prabhu made this point actually. Perhaps it was last week or week before, that the gopis, they're showing the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshai sashima suchaha. The Krishna is, the gopis are showing that they're abandoning all of these religious principles and surrendering to Krishna. This is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Okay, but it happens, the pastime takes place in a very jovial kind of way, in a joyous way, in this playful kind of way between these young boys and girls. So does anyone have any comments or questions? No, then Smita Mataji could read next then. Thanks, Lanisha.
Hare Krishna. Upon hearing this appeal by the unmarried gopis, Krishna answered, "My dear girls, if you think that you are my eternal servitors and you are always ready to execute my order, then my request is that with your smiling faces you please come here alone, one after another, and take away your garments. If you do not come here, however, and if you lodge complaints with my father, I shall not care anyway, for I know my father is old and cannot take any action against me."
So Krishna's, so he's joking with them, come and collect your clothes. And they're saying, no, we don't want to come. We're going to complain to you, your father. We're going to even complain to the king because you're such a bad boy, right? So this is the joking mood in the conversation. And then what does Krishna say finally?
He says
What
that
was
his father is very old, and even if they do tell him, he's not going to do anything.
Yeah. So Krishna says, I don't care, tell my dad. Right? So he's really like making them surrender, you see. So this is the extent of the surrender of the gopis, you see. Like Krishna says, I don't care, tell my dad. So you can see they both have very strong determination. Okay, and would you like to read again now, Smita Mataji?
Okay. When the gopis saw that Krishna was strong and determined, they had no alternative but to abide by his order. One after another, they came out of the water. But because they were completely naked, they tried to cover their nakedness by placing their left hand over their pubic area. In that posture, they were all shivering. Their simple presentation was so pure that Lord Krishna immediately became pleased with them. All the unmarried gopis who prayed to Katyanani to have Krishna as their husband were thus satisfied. A woman cannot be naked before any male except her husband. The unmarried gopis desired Krishna as their husband, and he fulfilled their desire in this way. Being pleased with them, he took their garments on his shoulder and began to speak as follows. My dear girls, you have committed a great offense by going naked in the river Yamuna. Because of this, the predominating deity of the Yamuna, Varunadev, has become displeased with you. Please, therefore, just touch your foreheads with folded palms and bow down before the demigod Varuna in order to be excused from this offensive act. The gopis were all simple souls, and whatever Krishna said, they took to be true. In order to be freed from the wrath of Varunadev, as well as to fulfill the desired end of their vows, and ultimately to please the worshipful Lord Krishna, they immediately abided by his order. Thus they became the greatest lovers of Krishna and his most obedient servitors.
Right. So this this argument is going back and forward, and now Krishna is basically by his strong determination forced them to come out of the water and collect their clothing. Yes, and Prabhupada clearly explains here that that actually this was their desires that were fulfilled. Yeah, so they were naturally feeling that their desires were fulfilled. But of course, the format of the pastime is that it happens in this very playful way between the young boy and girls. But then Krishna doesn't stop there, right? Because he takes things even more further. And then he tells them to bow down in front of the water and that they've offended Varunadev. So you can see that the gopis, they're very much surrendered to Krishna and they abide by his order, right? So then Prabhupada concludes by saying, thus they became the greatest lovers of Krishna and his most obedient servitors. Yeah. So so one may say that the gopis and Krishna, they're not very chaste, or they're not very proper in their behavior, but actually this proves that they are actually the most chaste to Krishna. They're willing to do anything within and outside of the law of normal behavior because they love Krishna. They're so much more chaste to him. Yeah, in that sense, they're actually most surrendered to Krishna. So this is how they conquer Krishna's heart. Krishna doesn't have that lust in the heart that he needs to see beautiful girls. No, that's not the correct understanding. Actually, the understanding is that they had the desire to have Krishna as their husband, and Krishna so kindly, in this way, understood their desire and fulfilled it. Because Krishna doesn't have any hankering for anything. He doesn't lament for anything. He's self-satisfied. He's Atmaram. He's Supreme Lord. How can he how can he be God if he is chasing after some desire? That's not possible. He's simply fulfilling the desires of his devotees in this way. Even up to the desire of if someone wants to have Krishna as the husband, then Krishna can fulfill that desire. We should know that is possible. So we see that these gopis, they're the most chaste devotees of Krishna, the most obedient servitors. And therefore, Krishna has names such as Gopi Janavallabha. So would anyone like to comment on this paragraph or questions? I'm just sharing a few of my thoughts.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes, from these pastimes, I think that's my realization. Krishna is teaching us there is two types of consciousness, external and internal.
Yeah.
And internal consciousness is so pure, so nothing is affected, For example, Sukdev Goswami, when he was going towards to the forest, and women were taking a bath, and when they saw Sukdev Goswami, but they knew him, who he was, so they were not worried about it. But just behind Vyasdev was going, and women try to cover their bodies, straight away. So Vyasdev asked them, when Sukdev went, and you remain same, and while you saw me and you trying to cover your body, what is the difference? And then the women said, he's a pure. He talked about the purity, of the of Sukdev Goswami. That's it. To Sukdev Goswami, it doesn't make any difference because
yes,
of
nice
the
example, Prabhu.
purity of the consciousness. So that's what I was trying to say. The Krishna is teaching us in external and internal consciousness.
Right. Yeah, see, so that's a wonderful example that brings up the comparison, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, so for those who don't know Sukadeva Goswami, he is the speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he's considered the greatest of all of the sages, because even other sages, even his own father Vyasadeva, even Narada Muni, Devarishi Narad was there listening to Bhagavad Katha from Sukadeva Goswami. So he is considered the best of those assembled sages. And he was in this internal consciousness, so much so that he didn't wear clothing himself. He was so detached from this external world that you see in the pictures, we see that he doesn't wear clothing, you see, and he's so much in Krishna consciousness, even his skin is bluish color because of his Krishna consciousness. So, and then on the other hand, Vyasadeva, he is a grihastha, he is, following the regulations of a householder. And because of that appearance, therefore, the ladies in the assembly, they covered themselves because of the presentation he had.
And as you said earlier on, Krishna has got no lusty desire, because by playing all these different pastimes, was Krishna always is a brahmachari, classified as brahmachari,
Yeah. Yes, Krishna is the greatest brahmachari.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So,
he's a master of the senses, and his senses are always satisfied without all this, lusty desire.
yeah, that's right. So, one sense he is just a small boy, so he doesn't have the lusty desire. Another sense he is actually the Supreme Lord. He's already without desire. And another way you can look as well is that actually that Krishna doesn't have a material body, and nor do his pure devotees. They also don't have material body. So the gopis, they have spiritual body. Otherwise, how could they be in the pastime with Krishna? And Krishna has spiritual body. So the whole pastime is completely transcendental, even from this perspective as well. You see, so it's completely compatible that they have a spiritual body, Krishna has a spiritual body. Because Krishna doesn't chase after material. Okay, so just seeing if anyone else would like to read.
I can read if there's nobody else.
Yeah, okay, well, I think we'll just do one more paragraph.
Nothing can compare with Krishna consciousness of the gopis. Actually, the gopis did not care for Varuna or any other demigod. They only wanted to satisfy Krishna. Krishna became very ingratitude and satisfied by the simple dealings of the gopis. He immediately delivered their respective garments, one after the other. Although Krishna cheated the young unmarried gopis and made them stand naked before him and enjoy joking words with them, and although he treated them like dolls and stole their garments, they were still pleased with him, never lodged complaints against him. This attitude of the gopi is described by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he says, "My dear Lord Krishna, you may embrace me, trample me under your feet, or you may make me broken-hearted by never being present before me. Whatever you like, you can do because you have complete freedom to act. But in spite of all your dealings, you are my Lord eternally, and I have no other worshipable object." This is the attitude of the gopis toward Krishna.
Well, so this paragraph now is brings out two important points. So first of all, just actually previous paragraph, Krishna told them to bow down to Varun, who is the demigod of the waters. Yeah, just like Indra is the god of the heavens, then Surya is the god of the sunlight, Agni is the god of fire. Similarly, then the god of water is Varun. So Krishna has told them that he's told the gopis that they've offended Varun because of their being naked in the water. So this is not actually the fact that the ladies, they could actually go in the water without wearing their clothes. That was actually possible for them. But because Krishna wanted to make them surrender further, he made them bow to Varun Dev. And then now it's explained that the gopis didn't care for Varun Dev anyway. Okay. So you see the pastime, again, it happens in these two levels, that they are obeying everything Krishna says because they don't want to offend Varun Dev, you know, but then it's revealed actually within their heart, they don't actually care anyway, because Krishna asked them to do it. Because of their simple hearts, they did it, you see. So this is the point, that actually even Krishna asked them to do, Krishna asked them to surrender further, they still did because he asked them, no matter what it was. They weren't actually considering, oh, I've made offense or not offense. No? They simply wanted to do what Krishna said. This is the level of their surrender. Does it make sense so far? Yeah. Then the next point is very powerful. I thought that in this prayer, which we've spoken about before in the readings of Krishna book, the Shikshastakam prayers, yeah, which is the 8 verses prayed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. These are written prayers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the incarnation of Krishna in the modern age. But what makes this incarnation of Krishna significant is he is in the mood of Radharani. Yeah, Krishna, he's in the mood of the enjoyer. Huh? Krishna is the enjoyer. But you see, Radharani, her mood is to be enjoyed by Krishna. And this is the mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took in the incarnation. He came to see what it was like to feel what Radharani was feeling. And then what is that feeling? Is given in this prayer. So I think someone was asking a week ago or so that why we don't discuss Radharani. Actually, the mood of Radharani is actually in all of these pastimes. That loving spirit which all of the devotees have. Radharani embodies that in completeness. But what makes Radharani's love extra special is this prayer here, because this is as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is praying in the mood of Radharani. He says, Slishyava padaratam pinastumam adarshana mama hatam karotuva yatha tatava vidata tulampato matprananatastu saevana paraha. So this is the translation in the Shikshastakam. My dear Lord Krishna, you may embrace me or trample me under your feet, or you may make me broken-hearted by never being present before me. Whatever you like, you can do, because you have complete freedom to act. But in spite of all your dealings, you are my Lord eternally, and I have no other worshipable object. So this is the mood of Radharani, actually. You see, it's very deep. Her love for Krishna is very, very deep, because she actually doesn't want anything for herself. What is she saying here? She's saying, well, what is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying here? He's saying that you can embrace me or trample me. Huh? You can fulfill my desires or not fulfill my desires. You can leave me broken-hearted even. You can be present before me or you cannot be present. Even if you never show yourself to me ever again, still I will love you. Yeah? So she's saying that you can do whatever you like, you're independent. Because that is actually Krishna's position. He is independent. Krishna is not subject to anyone. So if you accept Krishna really for who he is, like the way that Radharani is accepting Krishna for who he really is, then this is what's coming out here in this prayer, you see. So she still has no other object of her love, despite how Krishna may treat her. So this is the heart of the gopis, and this is why Krishna can have these wonderful pastimes with them. This is why Krishna can and Radharani and the gopis, they can enjoy these type of pastimes because their love is such. There's no pretension in their love. There's no desire for anything for themselves. Their desire is only that Krishna is pleased, that Krishna is enjoying, that Krishna is satisfied, and Krishna responds to that in that way. So then in the next paragraph, then it's explained about how Krishna, how he responds to that type of love. Mom, do you want to read one more?
I can read it, Babuji.
Yeah, I don't mind. Okay.
Sorry, just can you? Is it from Lord Krishna was pleased with them?
Yeah.
So Lord Krishna was pleased with them, and since they all desired to have him as their husband, he told them, "My dear well-behaved girls, I know of your desire for me and why you worshipped Goddess Katyayani, and I completely approve of your action. Anyone whose full consciousness is always absorbed in me, even if in lust, is elevated. As a fried seed cannot fructify, so any desire in connection with my loving service cannot produce any fruitive result, as in ordinary karma."
Right. So so Krishna is explaining in his words now this pastime has come about in this way. So he's very pleased with the gopis because of their surrender. And this equates to a verse in Bhagavad Gita, again, one of the very important verses. And so Krishna says, Man mana bhava mad bhakto, madhyaji mam namaskuru, mam eveshya satyam te pratijana priya sime. And he's saying that, as it says here, anyone whose full consciousness is absorbed in me. Yeah. So for that person, Krishna fully is reciprocating. Those people are very dear to him, who is fully absorbed in him. So that was so you can see in the pastime as it goes, they didn't want to please Varun Dev by what Krishna said. They didn't want to please Goddess Katyayani for material desire. All throughout, they just wanted to please Krishna, because they were, even from the beginning, they were going to the banks, singing Krishna's glories. And so Krishna, knowing this, is fulfilled the desires. So then there's an example given here. Did anyone pick that up? The example that Krishna gave? Krishna gives an analogy, compares the love of the gopis.
About the fried seed.
Yeah, and what does that mean?
So that means if the seed is fried, that means it can't grow into a plant, so it can't fructify. So also any desire which is in connection with Krishna, it cannot produce any any related or any knock-on effects for it to incur any kind of karma.
Yeah, it's good understanding. So yeah, that so Prabhupada sometimes uses this word like fruitive mentality or fruitive actions, right? Maybe we've read that in Prabhupada's book. So what does it mean? Is it Krishna is explaining here? Just if you put a seed in the ground, and then it bears a tree or a plant, and then there's fruits or vegetables that come from that. Yeah. So this is the nature of material activity, material thinking. That as soon as you plant a desire, then it fructifies, and you have to bear the fruits. You have to eat the results. You have to reap the results of the material desire. So if it's good desire, you get good result. Bad desire, you get bad result. Yeah. But Krishna conscious desire is different, because there's no good and bad result. It's only a spiritual result. So, like we said at the beginning, that their desire was spiritual, and so their result was spiritual. Yeah? The gopis had a spiritual desire that they wanted to marry Krishna, and the result they got was that Krishna acted like their husband in this pastime. Yeah? So this is exactly what Krishna is saying. Yeah, that it doesn't like if you fry a seed, then you can't grow it. There'll be no karma. Yeah. So in the same way, if you saturate your desire in Krishna consciousness, then you will not have any karma in your life. So their lust was saturated in Krishna consciousness. So from the beginning they desired Krishna, and in the end they got Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah, we practicing to serve the Lord Krishna, but still again we always think what we want, how we want to serve, not what Krishna wants, and not how he wants us to serve. So that's two different things. So what Krishna is teaching in these pastimes, that we should be, or gopis should be ready to,
Eager to serve.
Yeah, eager to serve, but to do anything for Krishna, whether in point of us, whether we think is right or wrong, doesn't matter. As long as to please Krishna, we do what he wants.
Yeah. So it's not easy to know what Krishna wants. Yeah. Arjun, he had to kill all his family, his friends, all his different relatives to please Krishna. That's tough also. Bali Maharaj, he had to reject his guru to please Krishna. See?
And in one pastime, Sri Krishna had a headache, and he
Yeah.
asked Narad Muni to find someone to give it dust from the lotus feet. All the Narad Muni went to all these rishis, and they refused because they didn't want to make an offense. And
Yeah.
in the end, he came back to Krishna, and Krishna said, "Forget about all of those. Just go to Vrindavan, to Gopis,
Yeah, yeah. And the
And,
Gopis, they said, we don't mind going to hell.
yeah,
That's
they
right.
don't mind. Even they don't mind to go to hell even
Yeah.
to please Krishna, as long as he's helping Krishna, I mean, pleasing Krishna.
So that's a very nice point probably you've made, and maybe we can finish on this point then. Otherwise, unless anyone has questions. So what's the learning for us in this is that we should be attached to Krishna rather than our service to Krishna. You see?
Yeah.
So in spiritual life, first when we come Krishna consciousness, do this service, and you get lots of Mahaprasadam, and they may give you awards and glorifications. So all these things are very nice, but actually, and they're actually very they're spiritual in nature also. Of course, the service to Krishna is spiritual in nature also. But as we go advancing Krishna consciousness, we should learn that our attachment should be for Krishna himself. The purpose of what we're doing is for Krishna. So therefore the attachment should be for Krishna. Not that we should be attached for the activity. Because Krishna may want us to do a different activity after some time. So then if we attach to that activity and Krishna wants us to do another activity, then are we attached to Krishna? That's the test. So, and we see in these situations, in these pastimes, just like here, the gopis, they were attached more to Krishna than to even their own bodies, even their own dharma, even more than what people thought of them. They're more attached to Krishna. That was the highest surrender, the surrender of the gopis, the love of the gopis. So to be attached to Krishna rather than the service to Krishna. So thank you so much, Prabhu, for adding these comments and contributions, and everybody actually for answering and asking questions, making comments. So we can continue this chapter next week. I did ask at the beginning for reflections on the chapter, but I think we've already gone quite over time. So we can go into the japa session now.
Haribol, everybody. See you all next week.